Krishna. An equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God. So said the famous mathematician Srinivas Ramanujan. An equation, say E is equal to mc square, the equation that gives to us the manner in which matter and energy are interchangeable. Now, what brought about this equality? Einstein postulated this equality means that this equality existed in nature, and Einstein gave a mathematical equation that captured that equality and conveyed it to us in a handy form. So now, what made this equality? That is a question that has baffled scientists and thinkers since the utility, the remarkable utility of mathematics has been discovered by physicists. Eugene Wigner is a famous scientist, and he's written a paper on the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural sciences. The unreasonable effectiveness. So, unreasonable. So, he starts with that. Why is the effectiveness of mathematics in natural sciences unreasonable? He starts with the anecdote before he explains it. He says, once there were two friends, and one of them had become a mathematician, and this mathematician friend started telling, they were both discussing their jobs. They had met after many years. One of them was a farmer, the other was a mathematician, and this mathematician started saying that I'm working on demographic trends, on how population is and how population has been in the past, and then he started showing him various graphs. And then there was, in the statistics, there was symbol pi. He says, what is this pi? He says that, and so when he was telling him about the various population trends, his friend was a little skeptical. He said, how do you know all this? And then he asked him, what is this pi? He said, a pi is actually the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its radii. So basically he gave a mathematical expression of pi. He said, now surely you are joking. You know, what has the relationship of the attributes of a circle got to do with population? Now, Wigner says that we may laugh at the naivete, at how naive the farmer is to not know about how mathematics works. But then he says we can turn the question around and take turn the issue around and take his question seriously. You know, how is it that mathematical concepts which were developed in the arena of abstract mathematics, how is it that they turn out to correlate with with things that we find in nature? What causes this correlation? What is it? So if we just think from a purely atheistic perspective, then the whole universe is a product of a Big Bang. So there was original singularity that exploded, and from that explosion, so something existed because of nothing, something exploded because of nothing, and when something which came from nothing exploded because of nothing, it resulted in everything, including the nature around outside us and in the brain inside us. And now the nature outside us is just the result of an explosion, and the brain inside us is the result of explosion. Then why does the nature outside us follow systematic laws? Why does it behave in a law governed way, and not just any ordinary laws of mathematical precision? And now going further, we could ask that if our brains are just products of an explosion, then everything that the brain produces is also chaotic. So the maths what we call as maths is just a concept which is produced by the brain, which is a product of which is a byproduct of an explosion. So some idea that has been concocted by us with our brain, why should that correlate with the way nature behaves externally? So, so this is a question for which we have no answer. And Wigner analyzes how physics applies, how maths applies in so many of the natural sciences, and then he analyzes how, in his paper, that how actually the concept of maths itself is difficult to define, the concept of natural sciences is also difficult to define, and he says that the correlation between the two is a matter of fortune for science. Science would not have advanced if maths was not applicable in the domain of the natural sciences. So he says we have no explanation for why this happens, but that it happens is a fortune for which we should be grateful, and we should use this fortune to advance in science. So now the point is that what Wigner leaves unanswered, Ramanuja answers over here. He says an equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God. So it is God who has ordered the human brain, and it is God who has ordered the world around us, natural world around us. So the human brain is capable of thinking certain thoughts which reflect the thoughts of God. As Newton, when he would make his famous discoveries, he would say that, "Oh God, I think thy thoughts after thee." And so that same God who has designed the world around us, that same God has given us the intelligence, our brains, which reflect a spark of His infinite intelligence. And mathematics is one product of this human intelligence, which is a reflection of divine intelligence. And that's how the concepts that we think of with our brain reflect the patterns of nature. So what has made E is equal to mc square? That is a thought of God. God thought the equality, and He manifested that equality in nature, and He gave us human beings that thought by which we could appreciate that equality, and thus eventually appreciate the wisdom of the God who has manifested that equality. Thank you. Hare Krishna.